There's going to be a lot of things said here, so in case any comment comes out that is a little bit inappropriate, we're throwing a flag on the play, okay? We're throwing a flag on the play. We're stopping, and the show's over, okay? All jokes aside, though, let's go ahead and let's just get into what we know about the situation. And so, big thing is that there's really not a whole lot known about it right now. We know certain parts. Part of the police report, screenshots, pictures that were taken of it did come out. We'll take a look at those in a second, but it's day one, right? We just heard about this a few hours ago, and so there's going to be a lot of details that are ultimately going to come out about this as time goes on. I think one of the biggest things that I'm going to be waiting to see is this just going to be one instance with one person, or is this going to be a situation where multiple people come out and start talking about the situation? Oh, well, Stefon Diggs did this to me. Well, Stefon Diggs did this to me, and Stefon Diggs did this to me. You know, a few years ago when the Me Too movement came out, ever since that happened, you have one person coming out about an allegation, you have a billion people coming out about the allegation. And the first thing that I want to say before we get into this is that I believe in innocent until proven guilty. I believe that we live in a society, especially with social media, where as soon as we see a storyline, it is immediately the truth. As soon as somebody tells you something, you just believe it. I saw a TikTok video the other day where it was like this comedian saying that, you know, did you know that in a song, these are the actual words? And everybody was like, oh, wow, really? And then 5 minutes later, he goes, yeah, people will believe anything you tell them. In fact, I lied to you. That's not actually what they said in the song, but I saw everybody's face in the audience light up like, oh, damn, that's what they said, because we believe anything that anybody says. And the truth is that with allegations like this, you do need proof and you do need evidence. And so that's not to say that the victim's wrong or we shouldn't be saying that she's a liar or she's a gold digger or anything like that, but it's just to say that this is brand new. It is fresh. Let's take time to wait for more details to come out before we say that Stefon Diggs is telling the truth or that Stefon Diggs is a liar. But according to multiple reports here, this is per Ari, he says a report came out this morning that Patriots wide receiver Stefon Diggs is facing strangulation and assault charges stemming from a December 2nd incident. The team just put out a statement saying the New England Patriots are aware of the accusations that have been made regarding Stefon Diggs. Stefon has informed the organization that he categorically denies the allegations. We support Stefon. We will continue to gather information and will cooperate fully with the appropriate authorities and the NFL as necessary. Out of respect for all parties involved, and given that this is an ongoing legal matter, we will no further comment at this time. Look, it's no good when your organization has to come out and make a statement. And I think as Patriots fans, we're probably a little bit upset about the situation, for several different reasons, but one of those being is that when you sign Stefon Diggs, everybody said, you better know what's going to come with Diggs. And we understood that he's a big personality. He loves Fashion Week. He's dating Cardi B. Like, he is a personality off the field just as much as he is on the field. And we said we can't allow that to be a distraction to this New England Patriots organization under Mike Vrabel, because what Mike Vrabel believes in is that he believes in a culture. And if you have a guy who comes in and he's taking the attention away because of inappropriate things he's doing off the field, well, that doesn't exactly fit the culture. That doesn't fit what Vrabel is trying to do. And we already had an incident with Stefon Diggs dating back, to around that training camp, mini camp, OTA time, where the guys had about a few days off there for the 4th of July, and Stefon Diggs is on a boat with a pink substance with girls all over him. Cardi B was there also, and the Patriots also at that time had to release a statement about the situation. Now, ultimately, nothing came of it, and it was just a situation where, it sounded like Mike Vrabel had to pull Stefon Diggs aside and say, hey, you need to calm down. Don't do those things or you're going to be out of here. And really, outside of that situation, we haven't really heard of Stefon Diggs having any issues. And in fact, here in New England, Stefon Diggs has been a model character. The amount of people that have credited Stefon Diggs for being a great guy on the field, off the field, for him being a leader, the praise that Mike Vrabel has given him, the way that he has stepped up as a leader and as a player, both on the field and off the field. Like, he's not here crying about catches and crying about yards and trying to hit his own personal vendettas here. He's out here helping the young guys, and he's really been selfless since getting here to New England and really helping this organization turn things around and even help Drake May. And so just to hear that Stefon Diggs is being accused of something like this, I can't speak for all Patriots fans, but for me personally, it completely took me left wing, because the guy that we've heard about here in New England and what we've seen from the guy here in New England does not fit the report that is ultimately coming out here. But let's go ahead and let's look at some of the other stuff that we do know about this situation, because there are reported text messages that this person gave the police. So for those who don't know who this woman is basically a chef for Stefon Diggs, and she essentially was not happy because she's not getting the money that she was owed by Stefon Diggs. Originally, Diggs was supposed to, at least from what she is saying, pay her weekly. Then that changed to monthly, but then she just wasn't getting paid at all. And when she ultimately approached Stefon Diggs about the payment, about not getting the money, it started to get physical. Here's a little bit more that we know about the situation. It says, Stefon Diggs, former personal chef, alleges that he slapped her and attempted to choke her during a salary dispute. The accuser alleges that on December 2nd, so this was after the Patriots win prime time against the New York Giants, Diggs entered her unlocked room. During a discussion about money owed, she claimed Diggs slapped her across the face. She then attempted to push him away. According to the court documents, Diggs alleged tried to choke her by placing his elbow around her neck. The report states that the victim described experiencing the effect of strangulation and fears she could, and I quote, black out. She also said that she was afraid for her safety. The woman also claims that Diggs demanded she sign an NDA signed an NDA after the alleged assault as a condition for receiving further payment. The complaint notes that she later received a phone call from Stefon Diggs' girlfriend. And that's a really interesting part about this storyline is, what's Cardi going to do? Cardi and Stefon Diggs just had a kid. They're obviously very, very in love. They're always together. They're always posting about each other. And again, they literally just had a kid together. She apparently knows about the situation because she apparently contacted the supposed victim in this instance about what happened. And what does she say? Ultimately, we don't know, but this person is saying that it wasn't only Stefon Diggs contacting this girl about what happened, but it was also Cardi B. Now, Cardi B didn't hit her, so Cardi B's not going to, shouldn't deal with any legal actions. I'm not going to act like I'm a lawyer here, but it just adds another layer on top of things that Cardi did know. Now, the interesting part that I got from this circumstance is that supposedly she signed an NDA. So if she did in fact sign this NDA, and now less than a month later, she's coming out and she's talking about it, well, now that's a breach of contract. And so again, we don't know, was an NDA actually signed, or did Stefon Diggs just approach her and say, you need to sign this NDA? And she said no. But that's going to make things a lot more difficult for repercussions for Stefon Diggs and her getting her justice if she did sign an NDA. Now, a couple weeks later, she's coming back on it, because I can promise you that NDA did not say, hey, for the next couple of weeks, don't talk about this situation. But, after 3 weeks, it's totally good. Go do what you got to do. I completely understand. I promise you that didn't happen. But like I said, there were also text messages that supposedly did drop. So we're going to try to read these as much as possible. The ink is a little bit faded on this paper that they showed, but it says, so it looks like Stefon Diggs is the one on the left side. It says, down having a texting match, you got it cool. I think what he meant to say was done having a texting match, you got it cool. She said, you will pay me out for the season and the money you said you would give me for my business. Wasted my effing time being here because you got a effing circus going on. I'm out of your life. Diggs supposedly comes back and says, I won't be paying you anything. If I look like paying you and paying another chef. Is you high? Who the F gives you money for your business? I don't got to do an effing thing. I'm really trying not to curse. I'm trying to keep this family friendly as much as possible, but every single word here seems to be a curse. Diggs comes back and says, and you can get whoever you want. You got my address. Tell them come and take my money. Then F you talking about show me I'm blah, 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 blah. You can clearly see and read that for yourself. We're not trying to get demonetized here, okay, guys? And now this was another interesting part because this is the official police document that kind of break down what happened here from the police officer's standpoint, right? And so from the moment she walked in to what was said, this is the entire situation. And so they say that on December 16th of 2025, while assigned to the front desk, this person reportedly comes on in and they checked the scheduling sheets and saw that they didn't have a female officer until later at 4 p.m. So it sounds like this girl wanted to talk to a woman and maybe not necessarily a man. Maybe the woman, the alleged victim in this instance, just kind of wanted to talk to somebody who would understand from her perspective about the situation and not a man. It says, I let Adams know this, and I told her that I'd give her a few minutes to think about things and that I understood she was uncomfortable speaking to me. After a few minutes, she said that she would give the report to me. I brought her into the interview room off of the lobby and began to speak. After taking down her information, I asked her to tell me in her own words what happened. She was hesitant to reveal the suspect initially, but I told her that I could take a statement and we could talk about that later. She went on to say that on December 2nd of 2025, she was working as a private chef. And it says where she was working. She said that on this date, the male that she had worked for entered her unlocked room. They had began having an ongoing text exchange over money owed to her. She said that they began to discuss this, which apparently angered the male, in this case, Stefon Diggs. She alleges that this male smacked her across the face. She said that she tried to push him away. The male tried to choke her using the crook of his elbow around her neck. She said that he was behind him with his arm wrapped around her. She said that she felt like she had trouble breathing and that he tightened his grip. At this point, the male threw her into his bed. He said something to the effect of, thought so. And then she told him that she had not been paid. At this point, the male said lies and walked out of the room. She explained to me that he needs to sign off on payments in order for her to get paid, which is why she confronted him directly. I asked her if she had any documentation of injuries when this occurred. She said that she had some redness on her upper chest, but did not take any photos. So right now, from what this sounds like, there's no real evidence. There's these text messages between the two, but we looked at the text messages. There's nothing incriminating there. It's an argument supposedly between Stefon Diggs and this woman, but there's nothing that talks about the situation. There's nothing where it's like, why did you hit me? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And he acknowledges the fact that he did so. And I think the biggest questions that's going to come up for this woman, whether this happened or not, just looking from a law perspective, is going to be, well, okay, why didn't you talk about this sooner? Why is there no photos that you took? Why didn't you go to the doctor? Why didn't you go to the hospital? If there is zero type of documentation, there's zero type of evidence, and she took weeks to come out, they're going to look at that and they're going to wonder, right? Because if the league is going to do anything and they are going to suspend Stefon Diggs, they're going to fine Stefon Diggs. Diggs is going to have jail time. Diggs is going to be fined by the law. Any of these things, there's going to need to be evidence because your word and your word alone isn't going to be good enough for any repercussions to happen. It also goes on to say that at this point of the conversations, the victim revealed that the male's name was Diggs, Stefon Diggs, who currently plays for the New England Patriots of the NFL. Why it was typed like that, I don't know. This is a police report, not a James Bond script. She looked at me and said it was Diggs, Stefon Diggs. I doubt she said it like that, but, to each their own. Due to his fame, she was very hesitant to come forward with this. I inquired about the details of her employment so I could understand the relationship. She said that she began to be a private chef on September 20th, or that wouldn't be September, that would be July 20th of 2025. So this was around the time that Stefon Diggs originally was signed to the New England Patriots. It also said that that was after the employment was supposed to go through the end of the NFL football season. So it sounded like since Stefon Diggs got here to New England, he started his rehab process. That's when he hired the chef to help him with what he was eating, prepare his meals, diet him, all that good stuff. And it was going to end when ultimately he was done playing football for this season. And so right now, this is just about all we know about this. Like I said, there is so much more that we don't currently know, but that there's the big question, right? The big question being Stefon Diggs, will he be suspended? And I see you guys asking me already, right? And me personally, guys, when there's a traumatic event that goes on, I try to make life of it, right? Like I bring comedy into horrific parts of life. It's just what I do. It's how I cope with things. Do I think that he did it? I don't know. That's the thing, right? I'm not Stefon Diggs. I am not this woman. You know, I believe that victims should always come forward, but there has to be something substantial there, right? Like we can't live in a society where someone says something happened and we just roll with it, right? You have to be able to prove something happened. You have to have documentation for these exact reasons. And like we alluded to just a couple of minutes ago, at this time, there is no evidence. It's fresh. Maybe things will come out. Maybe it'll come out that she did go see a doctor. She did go to the hospital, and that they can confirm that there were these spots and that there were these bruises on her. But if she waited weeks to come and the police officer examines her and he doesn't see any spots on her, any bruises on her, and she didn't have this documented with video, audio, pictures, she didn't get herself checked out, they're going to look at this and say, there's quite literally nothing we can do here. The other part to this too is that the NFL would do its independent investigation. And again, all we can go off of is what we know right now. If more comes out tomorrow, we don't know that right now. All we can go off of is what we do know. The truth of the matter, and I'm not saying that this is a good thing because I don't agree with it, but so many NFL players get caught for assault. Random people, wives, children. How many times? I mean, think about it. We heard a few years ago that Tyreek Hill had supposedly hit his kid, right? Allegedly hit his kid. What happened to that? Nothing. He wasn't arrested. He didn't get suspended. In fact, we heard about him supposedly assaulting women several different occasions since he was with the Miami Dolphins. What happened in that case? Again, he wasn't fined. He wasn't suspended. And so when it all comes down to it, I think that on social media, people are going to make this such a big storyline. You're going to have everybody posting about it because the Patriots are a very hot topic in the NFL right now. They are a hot commodity. Everybody's also trying to discredit all of the success that the Patriots have had. And so they're going to go out there and they're going to say 100% Diggs did it. They're going to talk about him being suspended because, again, they know how important Diggs is to this Patriots offense. And so, again, a lot of time for things to still happen. This is way too fresh. But if you ask me right now, I just don't think that there's enough to go off of for Stefon Diggs to ultimately be suspended. And even if he is, I think we're probably at that point, because this investigation might take a while. I think we're talking, even if they do find something substantial, that's a suspension that's probably going to loom more into 2026. But like I said, these types of things happen all the time in the NFL. It's not okay. It's not cool, but it's just the facts of life. These things in the NFL happen all the time. And it's extremely rare that, trying to use my words carefully here, but it's very rare that those guys do ultimately end up facing jail time or end up being suspended by the NFL. Usually, for the NFL to suspend a player with these allegations, it really depends on the track record for the player, right? So is this something that Stefon Diggs has dealt with in the past? Has he had these types of allegations before, which I don't believe Stefon Diggs has? You know, he's had character concerns. He's had the alleged boat incident. But outside of that, I don't really think there's been an incident where Stefon Diggs was allegedly assaulting women. And so I think that's one thing that'll also vote positive for him in the NFL's investigation in not being suspended, is that he doesn't really have a track record of dealing with this thing. And then they're also going to look at, they're going to look at other things. They're going to look at the evidence with the case, which right now there's not a whole lot of that either. So again, right now, if you had to ask me and I had to tell you what I think would happen, I don't think that Stefon Diggs is ultimately going to be suspended when it's all said and done. And so you guys are saying he has. So maybe there's something I'm missing. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to act like I'm the ultimate Stefon Diggs knower of his entire life. Maybe he had issues with a past person in the past. Maybe he hasn't. But at least from my knowledge, it hasn't. I'm going to be honest with you guys. My bigger question does not come down to, do I think that Stefon Diggs is going to have issues with the league or the law? Honestly, my biggest question with Stefon Diggs is, what's he going to deal with the Patriots? Because that's what people forget. Stefon Diggs can deal with repercussions in New England independently. Robert Kraft, Mike Vrabel, they can suspend him. They can bench him. They can release him. They can do any of those things, even if the NFL says there's nothing here, we're closing this case. Even if, from a legal perspective, they say there's nothing we can do here, we're closing the case. And if there's one thing we know about Robert Kraft, he does not put up for stuff like this. And so if the evidence does come back positive and there is a way to prove that this did happen, now we start talking about a different conversation. How long is Stefon Diggs going to be here in New England? Because Robert Kraft does not like to be associated with this kind of stuff. I know it's not considered domestic violence, but it's still Stefon Diggs hitting a woman technically in the workplace. Robert Kraft is not going to be okay with this kind of stuff. And you better believe that Mike Vrabel also isn't. And there was potential talk about Mike Vrabel maybe benching Stefon Diggs in the preseason and joint practice and training camp, and maybe there being some discipline actions there. I'll be interested to see what ultimately happens with Mike Vrabel in this one. But you also can't bench the guy. You can't cut the guy without knowing if he really did something wrong. Like the boat incident, there was video. We knew that Stefon Diggs did what he was accused of on that boat. But in this instance, we don't know anything. And again, we can't react to an accusation. We have to react to the facts and what we actually know. And right now, it is just accusations. Right now, it isn't any legitimate proof at the time of making this video. So, but let's go ahead and let's get on into the next little bit of information, because there's been a lot of injury news surrounding the New England Patriots this offseason.